Hey everyone, it's you once again, Rebel McLean for life. Welcome back to another movie review in the Sylvester Stallone. And of course today I'm gonna review Rocky 2, the sequel to the original movie Rocky from 1976. And since I reviewed a retrospective review on the first one, I'll talk about the sequel, which I do have the Blu-ray, and that's Rocky 2. And I'll say a great sequel, a great boxing movie, a great continue the story, written and directed by Sylvester Stallone, and of course the cast now returns. But it's in the back. It's the rematch of that century, Superfight 2, or just more rematch of that century. And I just rewatched this movie again. I watched both. I rewatched the first one and now the sequel, Rocky 2, and like I said, a great sequel. And so Rocky 2. This will be now my fourth favorite Rocky film. Don't get me wrong, I love Rocky Balboa. Rocky Balboa, the sixth installment, was actually my fourth favorite film, but now since I rewatched Rocky 2, I think I'll put Rocky 2 above Rocky Balboa. I love Rocky Balboa, but I love this movie way much more, I think it's a great sequel, and I'll also explain of my point of view what's about the sequel that's so great. But before, let's go how this movie was made. So Sylvester Stallone was planning to do the sequel because this is actually the final movie that was released by United Artists. And the rest of the movies weren't released by United Artists, but this is the final. This movie was the final. It actually was the final released in United Artists. So yeah, that was the final. But United Artists also did release this movie, Roadhouse, which I love to death. I watched it last night. I enjoy the hell out of Roadhouse. And I also enjoy Rocky 2, which is a great sequel. So because the first movie made a lot of money, and the executive, they also asked John G. Avildsen if he would return to direct the sequel. But John G. Avildsen was so busy with other movie projects, and he was directing Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta, and he could not make it to direct this film. So Sylvester Stallone, who wrote that draft and the screenplay for this movie, he asked executives of United Artists to step in the chair, the director's chair. But executives of United Artists were actually doubts because Sylvester Stallone directed Paradise Alley and it wasn't that much big success. They actually really had doubts about that Sylvester Stallone would be a good choice of being a director, because I watched last year Paradise Alley. That movie sucked. It was boring as hell. And Sylvester Stallone regretted the decision to direct that film. But they wanted, since the Rocky was so successful that time, they United Artists wanted Paradise Alley, and now they were actually doubt about if he can pull it off. But the producers of this movie, Irvin Winkler, Robert Chartoff, they actually supported the decision that Sylvester Stallone would step in the director's chair. So they convinced the executives of United Artists. So that's how this movie came out, So that's how Sylvester Stallone did it. This movie continued the story of the first movie, and Sylvester Stallone, he decides to continue the story, which was kind of different, But I think they pull it off, and even as a kid, I watched this movie a lot of times. What's the best about this film is actually the fight. The fight about this film and the character, respectively. Apollo Creed is the best of the film. To me, he's the best of the film, and the Superfight 2, that's titled, it is the best of the film. That's one of the reasons it's actually my fourth favorite Rocky film. And I know I love Rocky Balboa to death, but I'll put this movie above Rocky Balboa. And I'll say a great sequel, a really great sequel. The whole cast returns. This movie, the budget for this movie was now $7 million, because the first one was barely a million, $960,000 the first one cost, but it was successful. It actually worldwide it made, I think was 100, I think it made $117 million, but box office was successful. It was around $300 million, because it made more money. The first one, this one was worldwide $85 million, and it was box office $200 million. It wasn't that much successful the first one, but still was a successful in my opinion. And Rocky 2 is a great sequel. I love this movie to death. With the first one, I love the movie to death, and I'll say the first 4 Rocky movies are the greatest Rocky films. And I really love this movie to death. It was great. Also, Sylvester Stallone wrote the story in which the screenplay in which Talia Shire would be and Polly, they were actually watching his fight in the hall, in the ring, actually near the ring, but because the time Talia Shire couldn't, she was so busy, she couldn't make it. She was so busy, so the scenes in Talia Shire were filmed later. After the movie was almost completed, they actually were filmed later. Which they edited her, in which she's watching the fight during the movie, But yeah, she was really busy that time. But the cast pulled it off, and the Carvetters did, in my opinion, one of the greatest performances. And what I forgot to mention, last year when I reviewed the films, last year I didn't do retrospective review in the first one, but I said that in my opinion, Rocky won the fight in the first movie. In this movie, in my opinion, Apollo Creed won the fight, because I love the characters, and I love how retrospective Sylvester Stallone wrote the character of Apollo Creed in this movie. How Carl Weathers did one of his greatest performances. And love the fight, the super fight too. I think both men did a great job. It was perfect. It's 2 hours long, Both the movies, they have director's cut. Never seen them, never care about them, but it was great, And this is also the back. Now the movie continues. The first movie left off. Rocky Balboa went with the distance with heavyweight champion Apollo Creed. So they actually go now in the hospital, and Rocky retires. He announced his retirement, and he decides he's gonna keep continue. He's going to keep continue filming commercials. In the first movie, when Rocky was arguing with the driver of Mr. Gazzo, in which he said, bring her to the zoo. They go. The retards actually love the zoo. Rocky really brings Adrian to the zoo, and he goes and engages her, and they get married. And Mr. Gazzo tells him he will invest the money, because he left $37,000, because the rest the taxes took him away, but $37,000, he kept. So yeah, so Rocky, he spent his money really fast. He bought a new house, he bought a new car, new clothes, and Rocky. So now his wife is pregnant. They're actually waiting now for their first newborn baby. And Rocky decides that he's done being a debt collector, and he doesn't want to be a collector anymore. He's looking now for a job. And every time he shows up, he can't get a job because he has no high school diploma. He's a high school dropout. He has no high school diploma. No one wants to take him. So his son, so his brother-in-law Paulie brings him in the he helps him to get the job in the in the once again to I think was a mid locker, or how you call it, to be to work as a butcher, so he gives him, yeah, he gets a job as a worker in the I don't know how we call it, in that meat shop. He works as a meat shop. He works very hard, and also Frank McRae is in this movie as his boss, and he has to fire Rocky because of the union, because he has to cut short workers. And Frank McRae, which I reviewed, was in lockup. So yeah, Frank McRae goes and fires Rocky. Rocky goes starts punching the boxing in the boxing back, and he goes and sells the car to his brother-in-law because he needs the money, and he doesn't want that Adrian works because she's pregnant. But but Adrian goes anyway and works in the pet shop once again, but that's really way too much stress for her because she's pregnant, because they need the money. Rocky goes back to Mickey and asks Mickey if they can get better, that he wants to continue the fight, but Mickey says no, you're gonna get blind, so instead he gives him a job as a janitor. And Rocky now works as a janitor, and I know he's kind of humiliating himself. But in meantime, my hero and the greatest character ever created, Apollo Creed, is fucking pissed. And I support Apollo Creed in this movie. He's fucking pissed because he gets a fucking hate mail, and I wrote the quotes from him. We also see the first movie we didn't see his wife. This time we see his wife played by Sylvia Mills. She plays the wife of Apollo Creed. By the way, in Creed movies, it's a completely different actress. It's not the actress that she's in this movie, and she's great. So Marianne, Apollo Creed reads the hate mail and says, Marianne, listen to this. If you didn't beat nobody, and anybody who knows boxing knows the fight was fixed. And then she said, this came from London. You call yourself the champ. You're a fake. The fight was a fake. Go kill yourself. How much did you get to carry that bomb for 15 rounds? You're a disgrace to your people. And I love, because people are accusing him that it was a fake, that it's actually a fixed fight, that it was a fake fight. And he's pissed, he's hungry, and he wants a rematch. That's why it's called the rematch of the century. He wants a Superfight 2 rematch. In meantime, Rocky retires, because of his he sustained really bad injuries, through his left eye, because Apollo destroyed and eat his face, and because the doctor said he should quit boxing, because he can get blind, because of that really hard swings and punches to his head, to his eyes, because because Apollo, he just had a surgery. So Apollo, decides to do humiliating tactic, whatever it takes to bring back the man, to bring back the man, to bring the man back, whatever it takes, to get the man back in the ring. So he goes and draws in the newspaper, Apollo Creed versus the Italian chicken, and draws Apollo joking a chicken, and Rocky looks like an animated cartoon, in which Apollo was joking, was actually with his bare hands joking his neck, and he drew that to chicken, Rocky Apollo Creed versus the Italian chicken. And now even the fighters in the Mickey Goldmill gym are also starting provoking Rocky, like where you have a heart, because Apollo uses the humiliating tactic to bring him back in the ring. And Rocky, Rocky says, okay, Rocky at first He doesn't want to because his wife, is against it. She's scared that that Rocky can be blind or can be actually permanently disabled. She's very scared for him, and she does not support him this movie. But also Mickey does not support him this movie, which is another shock, because Mickey also was against it, just like Adrian. But when Apollo continue, provoking Rocky by TV, that he's a chicken, that he's scared, the man's a chicken, man's scared. Mickey shows up in his door and says, "Holy bomb," and shows in his door and says, "I think we should knock his block off." So Rocky decides to get back into ring, and he accepts the challenge from Apollo Creed. So this is a rematch. And at first, Rocky has he's actually have a bad conscience. He feels guilty because his wife is against it, and at first the fight sequence, the training sequences does not get that well. But I love the scene in which Mickey brings him a chicken, and now in that stinky sweatshirt he brings flies. He runs and tries to catch the chicken. I love that scene. And Rocky says, "I feel like a fry idiot." But no, I like that scene. You're gonna eat like you're gonna crab thunder, and I love that scene that they need speed. And that's what I love in this film, they need speed, and I think that Mickey says that's how we trained in the old way. That's how we train on the old way, and I just love that scene. That scene is fantastic. So Rocky, now he has to change, his technique. Instead of being a southpaw, he has to fight with the right hand. I actually read it that when Sylvester Stallone was pumping iron with Franco Columbu, friend from and competitor of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think that the left arm, he sustained an injury. I think he something he had to do with his muscle, and I think he had a surgery, so he needed to change the technique by fighting with the right hand, with the right hand. But it still worked, and he was continue training, but this time he's like screwed up, and Polly finds out that something is wrong with Rocky, that he's screwed up. So he confronts Adrian and says, "It's not alright, this is not alright how you're doing. You're messing that kid up." And she says, "It's wrong, look, I love him, you don't. If he gets the saber lead, you leave, I can't." And Adrian has a point, then she collapses, because of stress. And I just love the argument between Rocky and Mickey, because Mickey goes to the locker room, tells him, "Go away, I'm way, what the hell are you waiting for? What the hell are you waiting for? Maybe you don't have no tools, anymore." I just love that, I forgot to mention the apartment with Rocky, when Mickey tells him, you have a heart, but you have no tools no more. Maybe I don't, maybe you don't have a tools no more. And this is just the same, and Rocky this time says, "Okay, maybe I don't have anymore, and then I love when Mickey says, "Then go away, go back to the dock where you were, to be a two-bit nothing, because don't you waste my time, because I'm way too old to train a no-good loser like you bum." I love Mickey. Oh my god, I love Mickey in this movie. Burgess Meredith, rest in peace. We also see Batkus Stallone once again. Rest in peace, Batkus Stallone. He's wearing I love him. Sylvester Stallone. Rocky goes and brings on the line his beautiful dog. He wears the t-shirt through him. Or when Rocky actually goes and he washes the dog. It's really bad and sad that the 1981 poor Batco Stallone died. It's really sad. Sylvester Stallone really loved that dog, and it's really sad. But I'm glad that he returned dog Batco Stallone. I really love in the movie. Yeah. By the way, this is the disc. So now when Rocky finds out that his wife, that she's in coma, he starts training. He's praying for her. He's reading how, I forgot to mention, but when he was filming the commercials, he stinked at commercials, and as a director was mean to him. But yeah, he stinked in commercials, because he could not read it. And also, I thought, when I was reading the lines, when the director was pissed, on Rocky, because he couldn't do the commercials, he could not read the lines properly. I was, what kind of fucking lies were that writing, for the commercial? What kind of bullshit was that? And they're like two girls, and he's look like he's dressed like a caveman. No wonder Bob Gunter called him caveman in Demolition Man, but yeah, he's dressed like a caveman, and then he dressed like a boxer with two girls, but it's still it completely the lines are fucked up, and the guy was so rude, and I was like, and I agreed with Rocky when he said this is not right, everything's right, and the guy reacted, what's that right, and all this, I really try hard, and you've been rude. And this guy said, then leave. You wasted our talent, you wasted time because you cannot read, and Rocky turns around, and I agree with Rocky. The guy was a mean asshole. He was rude. And Rocky really tried hard for those lines, Yeah, he could not read. So what? There's a million people who can read, but so what, And Rocky, he really, Rocky that time, he stopped training, and if his wife doesn't want that he fights script, then he's not gonna do it. And when his wife wakes from when she wakes from the coma, she tells him, do something for me, and he asks her what? Win. And like in the church, when he was in the church praying for Adrian, I love the speech from Mickey. He says, he wants to show that it's nothing but a pure log, it's a freak, and just love the lines. And I wrote all of them, but yeah, I like that. But so now, when Adrian gives him a blessing, Rocky starts training really, really hard, I like the training. I really like the training montage, especially in the open scene. The opening, the training where he keeps making push-ups, and you see a beautiful, sky. Bill Conti did a great music score, but this time Gonna Fly Now, the music score was actually used for the jogging instead for the training sequences. So I think that it was brilliant how Bill Conti wrote a different music score, for the training sequence. And I think Rocky was actually training with the real boxing champion when he was sparring with him. That black boxer, that is a real sparring champion. And yeah, it was fantastic. My opinion, it actually was fantastic. But yeah, but now to So now the fight. The best thing about this film is the fight. So Rocky goes now in the fight and goes now 15 rounds to the distance, fights off Apollo Creed, defeats Apollo Creed, and he defeats Apollo Creed because he slipped. He knocks down Apollo, but he slipped down. And they both compete who's gonna win, the first one's gonna be the winner, who's gonna stand the first one. And Rocky wins, by a second. He wins by a second. And yeah, I did read some goofs, but yeah, Rocky wins the fight. He becomes the champion, the heavy champion of the world. He finally becomes the heavyweight champion of the world. And he beats the champion. And then he says, everyone, yeah, I love you too. And he's like happy. He's happy that his kid, that his son was born, and I just love that. Rocky 2 is really great film. It's a great sequel. And the movie of course ends with a beautiful music score. Now I did not finish, I only finished the story, but I still have to talk more about the film. So when you see the baby, that was actually Sylvester Stallone's real son. I think it was Sergio's Stallone, which was a younger brother of Sage Stallone. Sage Stallone played Rocky Balboa Jr. In Rocky 5, but that was actually Sergio Stallone, real Sylvester Stallone's son in the film, a real Sly's baby in the film. But also, what I also love about the film is actually Apollo Creed. His character, I love when he keeps provoking and he keeps calling out, he goes and keeps calling, out Rocky, he drews that sketch, the Italian chicken, which I love that. I love that he keeps continue calling out Rocky Balboa. I just love the training sequence between Apollo. Apollo, he keeps punching the bag. He goes with two sparring partners, kicks them off. I love that the character shows more off. He never smiles this movie. He's that serious. He knocks two sparring partners off. He keeps jumping that rope. He's a fast, and I also love Tony Burton as Duke Everest. Rest in peace, Tony Burton. But Tony Burton is much better in this movie, because Apollo says, I'm gonna promote myself and of course the fight. And Tony Duke shows up, and says, and he says, Apollo asks, why are you afraid? I'll tell you why I'm afraid, because I seen the man been beaten, but he keep you beat him, but he keep getting up. This guy is run for us, baby, and Apollo does not listen to him, and he keeps training very hard, Now the fight, when you see the end of the second fight, the real blows in Rocky's face, that is done for real. Sylvester Stallone, Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers, they actually fought for real. They start taunting each other. They were pissed at each other. They were angry at each other. They were not acting. It was done for real. The boxing fight once again was choreographed by Sylvester Stallone. And I know some people say, oh, it's a fiction, it's a fake, or maybe even because Rocky slipped and he knocked down his opponent, but he slipped Rocky. Even if he won on stand-up, he was still won. But that was like a fiction because they were competing. So what? They were actually standing up and competing. I love that. I love the fight scenes, the end of the second fight, the end of the second round, because Apollo keeps punching, Rocky gets pissed, he keeps punching him back, and Apollo gets more pissed, and that time, Rocky starts provoking him, and they start taunting each other, and pushing each other, and I love when Apollo looks like that, he shows like this, with his fist, that he's gonna kick his ass, he's gonna go and he's gonna kick his ass, he's pissed, and they actually really did, that was done for real. There are actually several blows that's supposed to miss Rocky, but hit Stallone in the face for real. And people say, oh, they didn't touch each other, you guys are stupid morons. They did each other, it was done for real. Oh, the first movie is only the real boxing, but this movie hasn't? You're wrong. It has a real boxing fight, in my opinion. They did not act it, and Stallone liked it, so he kept the scenes in the movie. So yeah, the second fight, I loved it. Apollo actually won this fight because he kicks his ass, by points. He kicks his ass. He kicks Rocky Balboa's ass, It was really done great. Even the first round, he knocked him down, And the second round, he knocks him down and says, just stay there, I told you, just stay down, I told you. And Rocky gets pissed, gets up, all blood, and they start fighting each other for real. There's also a slow motion montage, which I love, Rocky has a slow motion, great performance by Bill Conti's music score, and Apollo goes and punches in the head, and Rocky sees all double, he doesn't see normally anymore, he gets blows in the head, and that's like slow motion, and I just love how slide into slow motion, and like Apollo goes and knocks him, punches him, puts blows in the head, and Rocky goes, he keeps taunting Rocky, come on, and Rocky goes, punches in the ribs, and then in the head, and I think that Tony Duke says, champs, and I don't know what Mickey's screaming, but he says, hey, it's something like that, and I love the slow motion, and even the judge says, Apollo just lost just first round, and I love the fight scenes, or one of the scenes, fight scenes when Rocky Apollo misses Rocky, and Rocky goes, puts in the corner, starts punching him. I really enjoyed that, And in the 14th round, when the 14th round is ended, Duke says, or the second round, Duke says, stay away, this man's dangerous, I'm dangerous, and this movie says, you already won by points, and I love when Apollo says, he's gonna fall, forget the knockout, you already won by points, and there's also one of the scenes when Mickey says, you're a tank, you're a 200 pounds tank, run him over. I just love that, and Rocky, he goes the final round, they go, and Apollo says, you got him down, and Rocky says, no way, and they start fighting each other, and Rocky goes, kicks his ass, he goes, puts the blows in the head, and he clocks down Apollo, but Rocky slips, and they both fall down. And I actually enjoy the scene. I love the scene because Rocky and Apollo goes, brings his arm up, but Rocky, because everyone's screaming, come on, get up, and Rocky, he gets up and wins the fight, But the second fight was awesome. And even when I watched the film, it was really joy watching this film. I also love the training sequence when Rocky goes and was chasing the chicken, but in the training montage he catches the chicken. And just love the right training method, the right training sequence. So yes, Rocky 2 is a worthy sequel, is a great sequel. I definitely have no problems with this film, Sylvester Stallone focus more on the story, but it's a great sequel. I think Rocky 2 is definitely a great sequel, especially the fight, especially character Apollo Creed and the fight scene. Back in 2013, I watched this movie and Rocky 3 the most. That time I only had Rocky 2, 3, and 5 before I got Rocky 1, 4, and Balboa. But yeah, Rocky 2, really loved to death. I grew up watching this film. That time when I was 13 years old, they on TV they did only reruns of the 3 movies, Rocky 1, 2, and 3, maybe because of the trilogy, or maybe they did not appreciate in my country that Apollo Creed was being killed. I hated that too, But my biggest complaint is actually with the Blu-ray disc, not in the movie. The movie is great. The Blu-ray disc, I can see snow during the filming, during the making, when the movie starts, I can see snow all the way, and that skip continue, and I'm like, why the fuck is not this movie remastered? Why Rocky 2, 3, and 4 are not remastered? Fuck 5. But why Rocky 2, 3, and 4 are not remastered? The first movie is remastered. I can't see any snow in Rocky 1, in the first Rocky, but this movie has snow. Rocky 2, 3, and 4 have snow. Why they have snow, This movie deserves to be remastered, just like Rocky 1. Balboa is digitally remastered. The first is digitally remastered. Creed movies are digitally remastered. Why not Rocky 2, 3, and 4? It's like disrespect to Rocky 2, 3, and 4, in my opinion. But yeah, Sylvester Stallone did a great performance. Great. He wrote and the screenplay, directed this film. And right after this movie was successful, he was already working on the third movie. So because he wanted the trilogy, he wanted Rocky the trilogy. He had no plans for Rocky 4 at the time. But this movie came out in June 15, 1997, which was awesome. I enjoy Rocky 2. Great performance by Apollo Creed. Great character. Great performance by Carl Weathers. Burgess Meredith, rest in peace, great performance. Okay performance with Talia Shire. She was better in the first movie. I think was Polly. Okay performance by Polly, but in my opinion, the first movie they carried the movie. In this movie, it actually more focused on Apollo Creed. More focus on on Carl Weathers, which I think Carl Weathers in Sylvester Stallone, especially the second fight, was much exciting, more entertaining than the first one. So yes, Rocky 2, great sequel. Great sequel, one of my favorite Rocky films. Love this movie to death, love Rocky 2 to death, love the first one, they're both great sequels. I forgot to mention the training sequence. Actually, we're gonna fly now for the jogging sequence in which Rocky is running this time. There are actually 300 children, which they were used extras in which Rocky is running with them. That scene, that was extra. 300 children were used from school as extras in which they actually ran with Rocky. Rocky, he was running, one of the kids shouts, "Go, go!" And that was done for real. Rocky with kids running upstairs, and he jumps, it's just love that gonna fly now in the jogging sequence. Or when the training sequence, he goes and punches the back, and of course Mickey keeps shouting, "Speed, speed, speed!" And Rocky goes, "Yeah!" Boom! He punches the boxing bag. I just love that, But yeah, I love this movie to death. Rocky 2, great sequel. Anyway, that's my movie review on Rocky 2. Hope you like it. Hope you enjoy the review. Yes, it's one of my favorite Rocky movies. Love this movie to death. Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4 are great. All 4 of movies are great. And like I said, I put this movie above Rocky Balboa. I love Rocky Balboa, but Rocky 2, I love more. Anyway, take care. Have a good day. Have a good Sunday. Have a good weekend. And I'll be reviewing tomorrow Rocky 3, which is my second favorite Rocky movie. Anyway, take care and peace.